Trump continues to roll back more Obama-era directives. The Trump administration is now pushing for schools and universities to take a race-neutral approach in admissions and enrollment decisions.
This is on the heels of a firestorm involving a student group that's accusing Harvard University of discriminating against Asian Americans. The students argue the university rejected them in an attempt to achieve racial balance and capping the number of Asian Americans it admits. Harvard officials say they plan to continue to consider race as part of their admissions process.
So tonight we're asking if those changes could have any impact here in Arizona. Team 12's political reporter Michael Dowda verifies. Michael?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what we're really seeing here, of course, Mark, what we're seeing here is that we've seen, of course, that they're trying to roll back some of these Obama-era regulations. And what they're hoping to do is pretty much take this from the land of the Supreme Court and end up putting it, of course, into common practice. But the question is, does it really impact us here in Arizona?
Today, the Trump administration officially rolled back Obama-era guidelines which encouraged race to be considered in college admissions. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced the move, saying, quote, "We are restoring the rule of law." And this could have major implications nationally and potentially for a Supreme Court which has upheld affirmative action decisions in the past. But when it comes to Arizona, we actually answered this question back in 2010 with the passage of Prop 107. Now, that proposition stated that you couldn't give preferential treatment on the basis of, quote, race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in the operation of public employment, public education, or public contracting. The simple version of all that was in a 2011 memo, which states it's, quote, the amendment banning affirmative action programs in the state. Now, we did reach out to both U of A and ASU, who both say any changes made by the Trump administration, well, will have no impact here. So we can verify that the rolling back of these guidelines will have no impact on these Arizona university schools' admissions.
Now, the battle over affirmative action could soon hit those courts again. As Caribe mentioned, there's an ongoing lawsuit which claims Harvard had a higher acceptance standards for Asian students, which could be before the Supreme Court in the near future. Caribe?
All right, Michael, thank you.